Hey guys, welcome back to the Not Only Carrot Show here on YouTube. I'm Leah and today I'll be making apple custard wraps, a delicious vegan dessert that's not only healthy, but is really easy to make. All right, let's get started. Okay guys, to begin with, we're going to add all of our custard ingredients into our blender. I use a Thermomix because it happens to be my only blender, but a regular blender is perfectly fine for this recipe. I find it speeds things up a lot if you just whiz it all up and then get that into your pan or your pot on the stove. But you're welcome to use a bowl and a whisk if that's easier for you. All right, so to start off with, we'll add our corn flour, our cornstarch if you're in the States, and it's a half a cup. If you want a thicker custard, you can add up to a whole cup of your corn flour. And we'll add in a half a cup of water as well. And we have our sweetener for today. We have maple syrup. I've got a half a cup of that. You're welcome actually to add a half a cup of any vegan sweetener that you like. And if you are a vegan, you're welcome to do a half a cup of honey. We also have 4 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And we're going to add our milk now. I use soy milk because I prefer the creaminess of it. And I'm going to add 1.5 liters today. I will weigh that in the Thermomix. You can use other vegan milks if you prefer the flavour of oat milk, rice milk, whichever. Perfect. And now we're going to whiz that up in the blender just on a regular sort of medium speed and just combining those ingredients. So it's as simple as that. And today I'm just going to mix it together on speed 7 for about 3 to 5 seconds. Now we're going to take our blended custard mixture and we're going to pour it into a pot on the stove or into an electric fry pan like I'm going to demonstrate today. This recipe was actually demonstrated earlier on our channel with the Thermomix, cooking it in the Thermomix as well. But we had a request from one of our subscribers to please show how to do it actually on the stove. So if you want to check out the Thermomix recipe, click on the card up here. So what we're going to do now, guys, is just stir this over a medium heat. You can increase it up to medium high. See how you go. The idea is you don't want it to boil and burn, which is one of the downsides of cooking a custard on the stove. But as long as you stay there with it and keep stirring it, keep moving it around, it will thicken really well and it won't get stuck. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do now. Probably time lapse this, make it a little more interesting for you guys. And if you do want to make it a little more yellow, because I know traditionally custard has that yellow from the yolk of the eggs, use a little bit of turmeric and you can brighten up that color. All right, we'll see you in a few seconds. All right, I can feel it starting to thicken up, guys. It's not 100% thick yet, but you can feel it starting to little by little get a little thicker. Be careful not to boil it to the point that it's sticking. So if it does start to boil, bring the temperature gently down. Just a gentle bubble is fine. And keep it moving. I can feel it wanting to grab. Even if this is a non-stick pan, it still wants to grab. So keep that spoon moving. And that's also how you'll avoid it getting lumpy, because corn flour loves to get lumpy. So mine's starting to bubble too much, so I'm going to bring it back to a medium temperature. Once you leave it for a while, it will actually get a little bit thicker. So in this recipe today, I've only used a half a cup of the corn flour, but if you do want really thick custard that will even partially solidify once it's left in the fridge, then just jump it up to that full cup. And then you've got the leftover custard that you can put on the top if you want extra. Like it's a really good consistency. And I will just do a little test. Just dip the edge of a spoon in. I'm going to turn it down a bit because it's bubbling. Yeah, that's good because there's no grittiness of that corn flour. Righto. So I'm really happy with that. That's great. Now we're going to go ahead and make our apple wraps. Now you're going to need a packet of wholemeal wraps or multigrain wraps. You can make them yourself, and if you are interested in seeing me make homemade tortillas or wraps, let me know in the comments below. And we just take one at a time. I find the large ones are the best. And we just place it on the edge of your baking dish. Grab some tinned apple. Today I'm going to use a couple of tins. It's about 800 grams worth. And depending on how fat you want your wraps and depending on how many you want to fit in your dish, just put some apple in there. You're welcome to chop up some dates or add raisins, but I'm going to add sultanas, which are dehydrated grapes. And in Australia, they're just a standard fruit that pretty much everyone enjoys. You'll see them mentioned in my whole wheat cookies that I cooked, the sultana cookies. And I also mentioned them in my 50-cent vegan lunchbox challenge. I just sprinkled over 1 teaspoon of rapadura, that's evaporated cane juice. And now that is our wrap completed. We're going to just pull it over and onto itself and roll it up and then push it to the side. And now I'm going to repeat the process for the whole packet. And basically now we're just going to pour the custard over the top. If you can manage to squeeze them apart a little bit and give them a little more space in there, you'll find the custard can seep down between them and it helps to soften up the in-between parts of the wraps, the sides. Now we'll get our custard and I'm going to scoop that carefully over the top. You don't need to use all of the custard, as I mentioned earlier. The custard is enough for adding later as well. If you have any requests, any meals that you'd like to see me veganize or an alternative way to cook something, then just ask me. I'm happy to do my best. Now don't overfill the baking dish. The custard will bubble in the oven because it's going to be 200 degrees Celsius. You've got to be careful because you don't want it bubbling out of your baking dish onto the bottom of your oven and making a big burnt mess. So what I recommend is when you put it into the oven, put it on top of an actual baking tray so that if it happens to bubble over, it'll get onto the baking tray, which makes it pretty easy for you to clean. All right guys, so 200 degrees now for roughly 25 minutes and it's going to start getting nice and golden brown on top and then it'll be ready for you to eat. Okay guys, my custard apple wraps are finished and they look really, really good. Just one reminder, when you're making your custard, be sure not to scrape any bits that do stick to the bottom. I actually made a little mistake of that and you can see here a little bit that came off the bottom. I'm going to cut this open now. I generally use a flipper and cut into the wraps. Okay. Look at that. All right, so there we have it. It looks amazing. As I said before, if you leave this to cool for a little bit, it will thicken up. And if you want thicker custard, just double the amount of corn flour. So this dessert is amazing reheated. You can also have it cold and it serves a lot of people. As you can see, it's 8 wraps in there. The great thing with it is if you don't have any apple or dates or sultanas to go inside the wraps, you don't have to give up. I had wraps the other day and custard and I thought I really want to use these up. So what I actually did was use tinned pears and some leftover frozen blueberries I had. And because pears are so sweet, I didn't even add the rapadura and it was really nice as well. So it gives you the option of trying out lots of different things inside your wraps. I hope you enjoyed this really easy, healthy vegan recipe, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. And as I mentioned before, make sure you use some of that leftover custard to go on top later on if you want to have even more custard on your delicious wraps. All right, make sure you like and subscribe, share with a friend, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye. Oh, my spoon fell in.